5:31 PI.
It is 18 minutes past 7 o'clock. Whakalofalahi atu, welcome to Pacific Mornings. I'm William Terite. So Labour's finally rolled out its first big idea since election 2023, the New Zealand Future Fund, all about investing in Kiwi infrastructure and homegrown businesses, keeping our wealth right here instead of offshore. But for a party that spent months in reflection mode, was this the best policy to come out with? Now, let's dig into it with Deputy Leader Carmel Sepuloni. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Look, I, for one, am excited to see some Labour Party policy. That's great. But can you explain what this policy actually is in simple terms? Some might think it's mumbo-jumbo.
Yeah, well, I hope not. So the government has state assets, and currently the dividends that come from those state assets go back into the government coffers. What Labour is proposing here is to set up a future fund that we put an initial $200 million worth of capital investment in, where certain state assets will sit, that their dividends will contribute to, and then we will have the guardians of the super fund overseeing it to make decisions on what investments should be made out of that future fund, sorry.
Right.
And so the idea is that the future fund can be used to invest in New Zealand businesses, basically, to support with them being able to thrive, where we've got entrepreneurs and we've got innovation happening. Why should the government not be investing in that? Down the track, that would mean more thriving businesses, and then also the job creation that we so badly need right now.
Look, I had a wee bit of a smile as I was reading through the document. I'm a political nerd. I enjoyed the policy. But that said, was this the best idea to lead with? Some are arguing, where's a cost of living idea, a tax idea? What do you say to that?
I think it's really important in light of the fact that we've got a government currently who have no economic plan, that we start on our investment in the economy. Fundamentally, we've got job losses, we've got inflation going up, we've got New Zealanders moving overseas for opportunities. And so what we can do to credibly invest in our economy is actually a really good starting point. This is not the end of our policy announcements, Will. There will be more that come out, but it's important, I think, that we show that we've got a future focus, and we're focused on things that matter to people, and that includes investing in business and job creation.
Totally. Chris Bishop came out yesterday saying that he puts more thought in an Uber Eats order than the Labour Party has in this policy idea. He rubbished it in terms of there's no costings in all of that. What do you make of that kind of rhetoric?
Well, I think that's a reflection on him and his ability to be able to place an order on Uber Eats, to be honest. They've been calling for Labour to announce our policy for how long? We've started to roll it out. We don't want to sell off state assets. This is the other bonus to this. It secures our state assets moving forward. Whereas we know that National in particular and ACT have a propensity to sell New Zealand off and to sell our assets off as part of that. I think that they won't like this because it will mean that actually it secures our assets moving forward, as well as doing what I said earlier about supporting with economic growth, supporting our businesses and supporting with job creation.
Just two more questions on this. This policy has been absolutely dragged in the media coverage in the past 2 days. What do you make of that? Did Labour read the room right when coming out with this policy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always going to be corners that are critical, that criticise, but actually, I think from what I've seen, at least, the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and it certainly sparked an interest, not only in this policy, but in what is yet to come from Labour's policy manifesto going into the next election.
Indeed. Just finally, how would, say, this policy benefit our Pacific communities?
Well, I was just at the Pacific Business Awards last week, and so many of our Pacific businesses that won awards that had the opportunity to speak, we're talking about how incredibly difficult it's been, how resilient they have had to be, And, I think that they will be looking at this with real interest. Because often there isn't the financial support to be able to grow and move beyond the size of business that they are. We also know that businesses have had to lay off so many people across the course of the last 2 years in order to stay afloat. That's not what they want to do. They don't want to lose good employees. But they need a little bit of support sometimes. And so I think our Pacific businesses will be interested in this policy. And given our high rate of unemployment amongst Pacific, I hope that they will see some hope in initiatives and policies like this.
Yeah, and that segues into my next questioning. Inflation data out this week shows that inflation has edged to a 15-month high. It comes just weeks after GDP growth contracted. A lot of what we already know, it's blimmin' tough out there, right?
It's really tough. And, we've got a government that continues to talk about the economy and growth. And the only things that we're seeing growth in is the unemployment rate, the number of New Zealanders moving overseas, and now again, inflation.
Indeed. And look, I'm going to throw it back in terms of what would the Labour camp do differently?
Look, we've got a lot of policies to roll out between now and the next election. So you'll see more detail as the next 12 months rolls on. But rest assured, Labour has always been the party that's looked after the people, been focused on work and upskilling and training, and ensuring that people have enough to make ends meet. And so that will continue to be our focus.
Again, what I've been able to gather from just reading some of the stories out in the media in the past few days, and this, I'm just speaking more generally about Labour's policy ideas. I mean, we haven't even seen them yet, apart from what we've got this week. What do you make of that argument where people are saying you've had all this time to give us something tangible? I'm not saying that I'm in that camp, but I'm just merely asking.
Well, I mean, it is not unusual for an opposition party to release their complete policy manifesto in the election year. So the fact that we're rolling out policy much earlier than what we usually would is indicative of the fact that we know New Zealanders want an alternative proposition. And we're starting to roll that out so they can see the alternative proposition. We have months to go for us to reveal our other policies. The reality is we're not the political party that's in government at the moment that is causing the stress and hurt to many families across the country who are struggling with the cost of living. But we certainly are in the process of rolling out our plan and gearing up for election next year so that we can make this national-led government a one-term government.
Just very quickly on the mega strike taking place tomorrow, more than 100,000 workers walking off the job. What do you make of that? And dare I ask, do the unions have too much power?
Not at all, and it's been quite offensive to listen to the government continue to smash the unions over this when actually they need to take responsibility for the fact that they're not investing in the right places. Our health workers, our teachers are all struggling to make ends meet. But on top of that, they've had some very fair and reasonable calls for things like safe staffing, in our hospitals, and then things like support and resourcing in the schools so that they can do their jobs properly. And they haven't had that responded to appropriately by the government, which is what has led to this mega strike that is occurring. It is not the union's fault that we are having a mega strike. It is the government's fault for not investing in the right places and taking these workforces seriously.
Just final question, just merely on behalf of the left bloc, I suppose. Te Pāti Māori's infighting continues to spill out into the public. What's Labour thinking of it all?
Look, it really is a matter for them to resolve, and I hope that they do resolve the issues that we've all seen publicly and through the media in recent months. And that's really where it's at. As a political party, we've got to focus on what Labour is doing. And I hope that Te Pāti Māori can sort their internal issues out.
Yeah, that said, there's been some murmurings that perhaps New Zealand First would need to step in after the next election to help form a coalition with Labour. Would Labour work with New Zealand First?
we're not giving any thought to coalition arrangements at this point in the political cycle, Will.
No, I've just been cheeky and asking. Thank you very much for your time, as always. I always
Thank
love
you.
your time. That is Carmel Sepuloni, Labour's